Welcome to Sister. This is where real women talk about real life, for real. I'm Kathy. Today I'm so happy to have with me Heidi, Deb, Corey, and Kim. And we have terrific questions for you. You're gonna love this. Girls, hello. This is big. In relation to all the things that are going on in the world, how do you help your children feel safe after they see a world tragedy? And then, do you let them watch the news? How much news coverage is too much?
Well, my child, he's only 6 years old, so first of all, we don't have cable in the first place. I could care less about cable. But the most traumatic thing in my life right now is just the fact that my boyfriend's being a jerk. So, I mean, that's not really tragedy, but, you know.
Well, your boyfriend being a jerk affects your little boy.
No, not necessarily.
Okay, good girl.
Because I don't let him see that. That's a different part of our lives, so it's something that I try to shield him from. But, I mean, to me, it's a world, like my world is ending.
I don't want your world to end.
I mean, it's not, but still.
I know, but it's sad when
You know
you're
how
sad.
dramatic we get as women.
We do get dramatic, but we talked one other time, happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
Even though you're not married, that's tough. Anybody else let their kids watch this horrific stuff?
I think that it all depends on what is going on. For example, what's going right now with Syria, I don't have my kids sitting in front of the TV. They did not watch Obama last night, you know, that kind of thing. But I will say, when the shooting happened last December, there were bits and pieces I let my kids watch, only because I want them to understand that these drills that these teachers and the staff at these schools are doing is no joke. You know, I always want them to be prepared, but I don't think that they did not need to sit and watch a news station for hours on end. But I did feel that they needed to see that real life was happening at this, you know, at these schools and how it was affecting.
How old
the
are
other
they,
students.
your boys?
My boys are 12, 9, and 7, and so of course my 12-year-old, I talked to him a little bit differently than I did my 9 and 7-year-old. You know, but
I was going to say the same thing. Like you're the parent. You have to, you know, you have to control that conversation. So it's very important to talk. My kids are similar age as yours, as you know. I have 11, 8, and 5. And so I'm not going to talk the same to my 11-year-old as my 5-year-old, but it's important for them to know tragic things happen, and we need to allow them to ask us questions too, because a tragedy in their world isn't necessarily the same thing as a tragedy in our world.
Exactly. I mean, what's a tragedy to one person is a tragedy to someone else. There's sometimes I've found in my life that the things that I thought were going to be a big tragedy ended up being a huge blessing.
Yes.
So, you know, so that's the way I look at it. My kids, as far as like a really major tragedy,
Which are kind of the world stuff. What's on news? Sandy Hook shootings.
I don't think I'd let young children, but I have just always been really real and truthful with my children. My children are grown. They're 24 and 27 years old. So it's different for me.
I just saw on the news today, and I don't know what your opinions on this are, but they now are giving, a company is making school supplies bulletproof. They have book bags, they have binders. I just heard it on the news this morning, and they're talking about, is that a good idea to bring into schools for these children?
Why not?
Oh, I think it's bizarre.
It's bizarre, but it's our world.
It is our world.
I don't like our world. I want to be in my Jesus world. I don't want this at all.
You can't be in a Christian bubble. And I know so many people that are in this Christian bubble, and they want their kids in the bubble, and they want their family in the bubble, and they're not experiencing what's really going on there. There's really very evil people. I just read a story the other day about a couple who had horrendous things happen to their children. And the father at the end looked into the camera and said, you need to teach your children how to protect themselves.
Well, how do you?
And that's important.
Well, protect. You're a trainer, so you can protect yourself. But how do you feel after these terrible things? Does being a Christian make you feel safe, or do you feel vulnerable? How safe do you feel?
Because here's the thing that you have to teach your kids. This is not our home. This world is not our home. And that's how we get through these tragic things. This is how we have a hope in the Lord, and hope that someday we'll be in heaven. And so that's the thing that we come down to with our kids, is that this world is not our home.
I know, but if you tell them not to, I remember my daughter, who's now 36, listened to a radio show. I'm driving in the car. You have to be careful when you're driving in the car. Drive. I'm listening to a Jesus thing, and the guy's talking about the end of the world, And my daughter, who was about 12, said to me, Mom, am I ever going to be able to get married and have kids, or is this, am I going to be gone? So I think you have to be careful with our little children, but we are safe because we're Jesus. We've got Jesus.
I don't know how anybody gets through any tragedy without God in their
Right.
life. And the
Right.
other thing that's so important to me is my church family. I
Amen.
know that if anything happened to me or anyone in my family, God forbid, I would be inundated with people. I mean, they would be there for me.
That's
in,
right.
in every way. And I just don't know how people get through life without that.
Well, we are blessed. We are so blessed. But does God speak to people still today? You know, we read our Old Testament and God was on the mountain talking. And does he speak audibly still? And has he?
I mean, I definitely believe he does. Just recently, you know, with my whole boyfriend acting like a jerk thing, I was called to fast. And I remember fasting, and I started reading Isaiah 58, where it talks about a true fast. And I remember one day I was fasting, and everything was okay, and then we got into an argument. And then I said, you know what, forget this fast. I'm going to eat a cheeseburger. I don't have you to do.
Right.
And I remember God spoke to me so clearly. He said, this is bigger than him. This is bigger than you. And that humbled me. Now, when I read Isaiah 58, and it talks about how we are supposed to be fasting so that the yokes are broken, so the oppressed are set free, that's whenever I was so humbled. And I'm just like, you know what, God, I apologize because of the things that I consider to be so important in my life. Like, I'm fasting, like, you need to fix this. Give me an answer right now. Work this out so I can be happy. God's like, no, like, this is what I've called you to do. This is bigger than just the things that you want to be happy about. This is what I've
love
called
that
you
you
to
heard
do.
from God so clearly on that.
I
Heidi,
think we hear
you.
from God in different ways. I've heard audible voice. I've had my path put in a direction that led me to where I needed to be. I have in my spirit, I've known things in my spirit. I pray for discernment a lot. That's one of my biggest prayers, the discernment. So I've really grown to have this connection that is just life-sustaining for me.
Well, I
God
always
still
joke
speaks.
that God, you know, I wish he'd just send me an email because that'd be way easier. But, you know, the word talks about the still small voice of the Lord. And I think things like, you know, my smartphone and just, you know,
Where is it? Where is your phone? Where is that phone?
He'd be calling you all the time.
but that stuff gets in the way of hearing this still small voice. You know, he's maybe talking and I'm not listening. So.
Oh, we don't
Well,
listen.
you
We'll
need,
move,
you need to
move.
get quiet, that's for sure, yeah.
Heidi, do you hear from God?
I do, and you know, I think that he's just that little voice inside of you, especially, you know, becoming a mom and just your instinct and your gut and your little. I mean, you know, I'm daily, hourly praying to God, you know, and sometimes you take advantage of that, though. You know, I'm always, dear Lord, what should I do? You know, dear Lord, and sometimes though, whenever you say that, are you really talking to God, or are you just, you know,
Is your mind just going through
there?
motions?
Yes.
Or
And so-
are you speaking to the King of the
Right.
universe who wants to tell you?
Exactly. And
You want to
so-
know what he says? Open the book.
Right.
Well, I think a lot of people think that prayer is one-sided,
Yeah,
and they have this
right.
laundry list, and it's like, okay, God, this
Yeah.
is what I need today. I need this, 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 and this, and this, and this, and this, and they never stop, and they never listen,
Right.
and they never get quiet,
Right.
and they never say, where should I be?
Yes.
You know,
But you
point
know,
me
on
in
the
the
other
That's
side,
right,
I
that's
think
right.
people are so like brainwashed, like this is how you must pray, like a Lord, like a robot. Like no, I mean, there's been times when I'm like crying in my living room, like God, I'm frustrated. Fix this right now.
That's okay.
And I'll tell you what, that's what the sisters have to say. My sisters in Christ, who I love so much. That's what we say. What do you say? Send us an email. It's easy. s2s@ctvn.org. Okay, and remember this, iron sharpens iron. You guys make me a better Kathy. See you next time.